All right, Alexander, let's discuss, let's answer the questions from the live stream we did with Garland Nixon. And we'll start with Raisis, who says the U.S. has made Zelensky a messiah of democracy.
True. What a messiah. What a democracy.
France Augustine, thank you for that super sticker. Chun-Ling Tong, thank you for that super sticker. Jeff Bickford, thank you for that super chat. Raphael says Zelensky's visit was a goodbye tour to me. Everything is telling me he is another Samuel Doe. Reagan gave Samuel everything he wanted. Then the end.
Well, you may very well be right, but I mean, that's quite plausible, but we'll just have to wait and see. This remains a fluid situation, and you may be right about this. Colonel McGregor has just been saying that the Patriot missile system that Biden has given Ukraine is a kind of goodbye present. Who knows? But, at the moment, we can't say that for a fact.
Mr. Wonderful says Ukraine will be under Russian control by the time the first Patriot system is scheduled to be loaded on the first plane. There you go.
Wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
Roman V says bloody Cirque de Zelensky. Raphael says the speech Putin gave yesterday, he was not talking to NATO. He was talking straight to the USA. I said it before, Russia will take on the USA soon.
I think he was first and foremost talking to his own people. Now, I think one must never overlook that. But undoubtedly, he does have an international audiences in mind. One is the global south, one is China, and another undoubtedly is the United States, or is the American people.
Brian Berner says Merry Christmas. Stephen Bateman says the world is in a mess. Whatever happened to common sense? It's just getting crazy now. Thank you for that. John, thank you for that super sticker. Florentina, thank you for that super chat. Ricardo Alfonso says this Vietnam-style mission creep will not work out well for the U.S. They never adapt to the current situation, but are always fighting the last war.
Yes, I agree with that completely.
Raul Pinto says Pelosi's office directly involved in the security of January 6, 2021 riot per GOP released emails. Does this story have legs?
Yes, of course it does. And I should say that it was something that we were talking about here on the Duran at the time. I mean, this should not be news. We've seen some further confirmation of this. I mean, I don't think there's been a proper investigation of this affair. The investigation that we've seen has not been a proper one. That's all I get to say about this. Mm-hmm.
ThinkPad20 says, what is the scale and purpose of Poland's reported military mobilization? Are they acting independently as NATO fractures, or is this coordinated?
We've done a whole video about this, and I'm going to suggest that you go to the video and follow it, because this is a huge topic. And by the way, I'm sure Alex is also getting emails about it every day, including from people in Poland, very concerned people in Poland. All I'm going to say is I don't quite know what the Polish intentions are. As I said, we've discussed this in our program. But I cannot believe that the Poles would do this without getting at least a green light from someone in Washington and in Brussels. So it's, that's, I think, all I could say in this format. If you want more detail, go to our program on the Duran.
Ricardo Alfonso says, read Cost of Loyalty by Tim Bakken. Very eye-opening regarding U.S. military officer training.
I've heard about this. I haven't read the book, but yes, I will.
Gloria says, Alex, to your coffee fund when you upload your reports. Thank you, Gloria. Ziknas says, do you think Poland will attempt to attack Russia now that they have upped their military gains? How would Russia navigate that engagement? Attrition or something else?
Huge question again. And as I said, I would again refer you back to our program about this. I think that it would be utter folly for Poland to go into Ukraine and fight Russia. I think that would be incredibly reckless and foolish thing for Poland to do. I think that it would split NATO. I think it would split the EU in ways that have not happened up to this point. I think Germany and France would not be pleased, and I think that Poland is in no position to take on the Russians, and I think the Russians would very quickly overwhelm whatever Polish forces were sent into Ukraine. But as I said, this is a huge subject, and as I said, we have done a detailed video talking about this.
Raphael says Putin spoke with Modi, went to visit Lukashenko. Medvedev went to China. China and Russia told the U.S. Iran is off limits. The West is not running things.
No, absolutely. And now Putin and Xi Jinping have had a virtual meeting. Lots of things are going on, and we're going to do programs about that and about the fact that the Syrian and Turkish defense ministers met in Moscow. The foreign ministers of these countries are also meeting soon. So lots going on. And you're absolutely right. The United States, the West doesn't run things anymore. That's completely correct.
Eliana Alan says, just thank you for the work you do. Your minds and voices are very valuable. Merry Christmas. Thank you for that. 456T123G says, nothing is covered that will not be revealed. Getting harder to hide the truth. The Prophet's wife.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Very well said. Ricardo Alfonso says, Ukraine is looking more like a weekend at Bernie's. Zariel says, at least you didn't have to pay for new attire. Thank you for that, Zariel. Hartono Kafrawi, thank you for that. Super chat. 456123G says, thank you for having the courage to speak truth to power. You three wise men. Happy holidays from the Prophet's wife. Thank you very much for that super chat. Knuckles Fist says, why can't Ukraine skip the middleman and just print their own new money?
Yeah, people was worthless. Exactly, yeah.
SSSS says, NATO has forgotten Afghanistan so fast. 20 years and Taliban still there. Ukraine is turning into a wasteland.
Absolutely. Can I just make a quick point about this? We said on a program some months ago that one of the reasons the US pulled out of Afghanistan is so as not to leave its troops vulnerable in Afghanistan to possible Russian retaliation in anticipation of the conflict in Ukraine. And there's been some comments from some US officials over the last couple of days that seem to confirm, from Blinken, which seem to confirm that that analysis we made months ago was correct.
Mm-hmm. Blinken said it.
Absolutely.
Costa910 says, Xi wrote to Putin, Kosovo je Serbia.
Yeah.
Andrew Novak says, I hate to correct, but they are up to 150 billion, which would have covered a whole hell of a lot for the domestic population.
Yeah. I think you may be right. I mean, we're losing. I don't think anybody actually knows exactly how much money has gone, but 150 billion, quite possibly.
Daniela Modus Cutter, thank you for that super sticker. Cactus Ray, thank you for that super sticker. Sparky says, Rishi Sunak sounds like he's 15 years old. 35 is the new 15.
Very good.
Toilet Sauce says, Garland, what's your take on the north-south transport corridor from St. Petersburg via Iran to India, or the sanction-evading transport route, as some journals called it?
I think we talked about this on the program, actually, but this is absolutely. This is big news, but as I said, I think we did talk about it.
Yeah. Mr. Wonderful says NATO needs another trillion, obviously.
True. Why stop there? Why only one?
Yeah. K1FH says, hate the that $X billion could have funded Y instead narrative. We are broke. The Fed is targeting interest rates of 5.1%, meaning that 31 trillion will increase parabolically. Give us our money back.
I think that's a very, very good statement, actually, and thank you for making it. And I think it's a corrective and it's a good one.
Gasteros Panama, thank you for that super sticker. Raphael says, if you think FIFA told Zelensky no on her own, you are sadly mistaken. Europe is fed up with him. Europe is held hostage by the US and wants out.
Well, some people in Europe might be, but I mean, don't assume everybody in Europe is talking like that. There was a really bizarre interview by the head of Euro Eurovision Song Contest, on British radio, in which saying, we must stand by Ukraine, and of course we've got to ban the Russians and all that kind of thing. So, some people, maybe FIFA is saying one thing, others are saying something completely different. There may be cracks within the European position, but don't think that this is the beginning of a real rebellion by the Europeans. I think that's premature. And remember, FIFA is a global organization.
Not a banned account says, will Biden admin restore Ukraine nuke capability?
No. I don't think the United
Ukraine never
States
had
would
nuke
want that.
capability.
No, absolutely. That's a very good point too, actually. I mean, it's a very, very good point. And to follow on from what Alex says, Ukraine never had nuclear weapons. All the nuclear weapons that were on Ukrainian territory were Soviet. When the Soviet Union broke up, they passed to Russia. They were in Russian ownership and under Russian control, and the agreements that were reached were to return them to Russia.
Yeah. Ricardo Alfonso says, massive Polish mobilization, but where are the weapons? Or are they going to use spears and swords?
Well, very good point too.
Not a banned account says, how soon will the USA end this conflict directly?
What, by going to war itself or by negotiating? If it wanted to negotiate a compromise, it could do it very fast. I mean, there's lots of things it could agree with the Russians, though the Russians would be very mistrustful of anything that the US proposed, and they could give guarantees. If the United States wants to become directly involved, well, we're in World War III, which is not, I think, the scenario we want to be in.
SSSS says NATO Article 5 is a bluff and Russia will soon expose this. Turks won't join the fighting if Poland is involved directly.
I think you may actually turn out to be right.
A lot of countries won't join the fight. A lot of countries will not join that fight. The majority of the countries won't join that fight. Jahangir says America is a threat to the world. They ensure freedom for themselves but imprison the world. Their core ally harbors terrorists. Their wars need to happen on their soil. Then their madness stops.
I agree with every point you've made except one, which is that they have freedom for themselves. As you would realize if you were following our programs, and also, particularly the one we recently did with Robert Barnes, freedom in America is a declining thing. And it's not possible to be an empire in the way that some people in the United States want it to be and preserve freedom within the United States. The two are incompatible.
K1F8 says Rand Paul is a designated driver at the bar at last call, except Pelosi and McConnell keep ordering round after round. Guys, time to call it a night, guys.
Well put.
Well said. Whitney Richards says, why don't the Ukrainians overthrow Zelensky?
Very, very difficult to do. There's a very elaborate intelligence and security system at work in Ukraine. There's also all these militias which are armed and violent. And I think if you try and do that, then you're going to run huge risks. Also, remember that the young men who would be at the forefront of any protests are now basically conscripted in the army. And of course, the media is under government control. There might eventually be a challenge to Zelensky, and he might be overthrown. But if that happens, it will come from within the regime.
Ricardo Alfonso says Zelensky's looking more useful as a martyr than a leader.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some people in Washington who think that.
Rice says, what happens to NATO members when the U.S. elite's policy fails?
They will go the way that all the communist bureaucrats in Eastern Europe went. In other words, they will vanish into obscurity.
Duran, thank you for that super sticker. JF, thank you for that super sticker. Sparky says, what becomes of the money collected by the West to rebuild Ukraine after Russia takes over all of Ukraine?
Oh, well, the West will never see it again. It's as simple as that.
You assume the money's going to actually go to build something.
That's also true. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Sparky, for that. Elza says, just a joke. Zelensky went to have a speech in the U.S. Congress because he wasn't allowed to speak before the final of the Football World Cup.
Absolutely. Good. Well said.
Well said, Elza. And let's see. What's John? Thank you for that super sticker. Summer of 1970 says happy holidays. And John Denugent with a big super chat saying, I love your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's everything.
Wow.
Thanks for the questions, everybody.